Good afternoon and welcome back to Football League World TV. We've got another EFL Transfer Zone show for you this Thursday afternoon. My name is Sam Rourke, the Chief Editor of Football League World.co.uk, and I'm joined by two of my colleagues, Ben Wignall and Chris Gallagher. Ben, how are you getting on?
Yeah, all good. Got a bit of a cold, nothing that I can't manage. Excited to look at some of these latest transfer rumours. Obviously, the regular season for the EFL's finishing now, so the transfer rumours are hotting up, and there's a lot of good players being linked with moves away from the clubs.
Yeah, it's been a busy week for us here at Football League World. So much going on across the EFL transfer-wise. Chris, how are you getting on, mate?
Yeah, I'm all good, thanks. And as Ben says, it's starting to build up now, isn't it? You get a lot of rumours, but it'll be interesting to see what does happen because it's going to be an interesting summer for a lot of clubs.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Ben said, the domestic season has finished. We are in the midst of the playoffs. The Championship playoffs do kick off tomorrow as Luton play host to Huddersfield. That should be an entertaining game. But for now, we're going to be talking about transfers across the English Football League. We've handpicked a selection of some of the latest rumours and gossip from across the divisions. We are broadcasting live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. So get yourself in the comments. Let us know your thoughts on some of the transfer rumours we're going to be discussing today. Let's get straight into it. Okay, let's start off with looking at Curtis Davies. He is a man in demand right now at the age of 37. Hull City and Bristol City are two clubs keen on bringing the experienced centre-back to their respective clubs in the summer. He has, of course, enjoyed a really productive spell at Derby County. They did get relegated, but he did play every single minute of the campaign at the age of 37. Quite a remarkable achievement for Curtis Davies. He's been a real rock for the Rams this campaign. Ben, let's come to you then first. Let's look at the Hull City interest first. Curtis Davies is no stranger to the Tigers. He had a 4-year spell there a few years ago. Do you think Curtis Davies could be a shrewd addition for Hull?
Definitely, yeah. When you look at Hull's defensive options at the minute, they've got Jacob Greaves, who's very talented and young, and he's been linked with a Premier League move. And they've also got Sean McLaughlin and Alfie Jones. There's not a lot of experience back there, and bringing someone back like Davies, who's a fan favourite at his time at the Tigers when he played from a few years back, I think it would be a very good move, especially on a free. I think he admitted last year that if the opportunity arose, he would love to go back there and have one last shot. And I think it's remarkable that you said he played every minute of every game, but especially after he suffered that bad Achilles injury in late 2020, he came back from that, and to play every minute at his age, he looked very solid as well, especially alongside Phil Jagielka in the first half of the season. He was a real rock alongside him. And I think if Greaves just stay at Hull, then, he could go into a back two or back three alongside Greaves, and he could be a really good player for the club, going back to a place he's no stranger to playing at. So I think he'd be a really good fit at Hull if they approach him, and I think they'd be silly not to.
Yeah, like you say, it would add a considerable amount of experience to what is quite a youthful looking Hull City side, especially their back line. Could do with someone like Curtis Davies, you'd imagine. Any Hull City fans watching this, would you like to see Curtis Davies return to Hull City this summer? Let us know. Chris, let's look at this then from a Bristol City perspective. Do you think he'd be a good addition for the Robins this summer?
I think a lot will depend if they can manage to re-sign Tim Closer, because obviously I think he's out of contract, and if you had the two of them, you could argue they're similar, the roles they'd take in terms of being the experienced professional, like organising the back three. So maybe if they keep Closer, they don't need Davies. It wouldn't be like a problem if they sign, because you've still got two good players there if you do have them. But maybe I think Davies will want somewhere where he's guaranteed to play. We've touched on his remarkable fitness record in the last year with Derby, and that just shows how good he is at maintaining himself, knows what to do in terms of his professionalism, and so he's going to want to play more games before he does retire. So maybe that wouldn't be guaranteed if Closer stays at Ashton Gate, but if not, then I think Davies is the perfect perfect candidate to replace him because of the similar qualities they have in terms of the leadership, the organisation. And Ben mentioned it there with the Hull youngsters who would benefit from him, and it's the same story with Bristol City. So yeah, I think if they do sign him and if he is in the team to start in August, Pearson will be very happy because he's got a good defender in the squad.
Yeah, I suppose it's not just what he offers on the pitch, it's what he offers off the pitch, that leadership quality, that experience, that know-how. You know, he's been in so many dressing rooms over the years. That will be invaluable to a team like Bristol City or Hull City, you'd imagine. Right, let us know in the comments what you make of the Curtis Davies situation. Do you think it would be a good move for him to join Hull or Bristol City? It is worth noting that Derby County are also keen on the player. However, we know their circumstances right now might not be able to get a deal over the line, but it's definitely a situation to keep tabs on. Right, let's look at another transfer rumour next. Okay, the future of Joe Rothwell is very much a hot topic right now in the Championship. AFC Bournemouth are leading the race to sign the former Blackburn Rovers player. He has been released. His contract did come to an end at Ewood Park. Bournemouth are leading the race. Forest and West Brom have also been credited with an interest in the midfielder. He's enjoyed a real fine season for Rovers. He's been an influential figure in that side, scoring 3 goals and providing 10 assists for Rovers this campaign. Very productive. Ben, let's come to you. Bournemouth tried to sign Joe Rothwell back in January. They had their bids rebuffed. But it sounds like they are still interested in the player this summer. What do you make of this from a Cherries perspective? Do you think it's a bit of a coup on a free transfer? And is he good enough for the Premier League, given the Cherries are promoted now?
Yeah, I think it's tough to say. You know, he spent a lot of his career in League One and the Championship, and now he's not a Blackburn player anymore. I can kind of compliment him and not dislike him. He's a very good creative midfield player, and the way that Scott Parker plays, you know, the midfield of Lewis Cook, Lerma and Billing, that's a solid trio, but it's one you'd want to improve going into the Premier League. You'd probably say that Cook's the one that may drop out of the 3, but is Rothwell a major improvement on him? I think creative-wise in the final third years, you know, he got 10 assists this season in that Blackburn side, but, you know, is he going to be able to make that step up at the age of 27 that he is now? I'm not sure if he's going to go to a Premier League club. I think it will be a kind of a newly promoted team, but I just feel like he may not be as, you know, as creative. It's a big step up, obviously, into the Premier League, but I think Bournemouth might be worth setting the sights higher now they have been promoted. And obviously, we'll talk about it in a minute. There's Championship clubs interested in Rothwell, ones with money to spend on wages, and he may fit in better there. But, you know, if Scott Parker wants him, he will be a bargain on a free, and if it doesn't work out, they'd be able to make a bit of profit on him. So I think if Bournemouth do want him, then it would be a decent deal, and it just remains to be seen if he is good enough for the top flight.
Yeah, definitely a situation to keep tabs on. Let's look at West Brom's interest then, Chris. I think has become abundantly clear in these early kind of stages of the transfer. I know the transfer window isn't open, but before it opens, that West Brom do want to sign creativity this summer. They've been heavily linked with John Swift at Reading, and Joe Rothwell's on their radar as well. Do you think he would add that element of creativity next season for Steve Bruce's side?
Yeah, I definitely do. I think Bruce, as you said, has quickly identified the need for more from midfield, because I think initially there was maybe the excuse that Ismail's direct style kind of like bypasses the midfield, but even then when they tried to change it, the reality was they weren't playing well enough at all. I think Livermore does a job in a certain way, and I think they maybe thought Alex Mowatt would be that one who could find a pass, maybe score a few goals. And to be fair, he did score a few great goals, but he didn't offer enough. He hasn't offered enough so far in terms of the creativity. So it is something that they need to address, and I think Rothwell would go straight into the Albion 11, to be honest. I think if they did manage to sign him and John Swift, you're looking at two of the probably the best for free transfers as well, two of the best bits of business by a Championship club this summer. So yeah, if they can pull that off, it would be a real good signing. And obviously Bruce he's realised pretty quickly what he needed to do, and he's not trying to waste any time. He's trying to get it done quickly.
Yeah, definitely something to watch then. Joe Rothwell's future, number of linked clubs. Bournemouth leading the race as we speak right now. We'll have an update, I'm sure, on the website, footballleague1.co.uk, very, very soon on that one. Right, let's look at the future of Marcus Tavernier. We at Football League World understand he is getting a lot of interest from the Premier League. Wolves, Brighton and Southampton are among a cluster of top flight clubs. We understand keeping tabs on the Middlesbrough midfielder. He's had a fairly productive season for Chris Wilder's side, scoring 5 goals and providing 5 assists. Still only 23, but he's really got a lot of experience in the EFL under his belt already. Ben, let's look at Tavernier then. Is he a player you feel could make that jump up to the Premier League ahead of next season?
I think he's got the potential. Yeah, he's a very athletic midfielder who can get up and down the pitches. He's proved this season. He's a good player technically. Showed a lot of versatility this season as well. He's mainly played through the middle in a midfield 3 under Chris Wilder, but he's able to play as a left wing back, or he can play out wide on the wing. So there's different systems in the Premier League with the clubs he has been in link with that he can fit into. Maybe Southampton are one of the rare teams that play with a 4-4-2 nowadays, and he could potentially fit on that left-hand side of a midfield 4. At 23, he's still got developing to do. You probably maybe would have expected a few more goal contributions this season from him, but he's definitely got potential. And is it going to be a season too soon? Maybe. If I was him, I'd probably be having one more crack of a promotion season with Middlesbrough. They'll probably get some decent new players in under Chris Wilder. But if a Premier League move does come, you couldn't begrudge him of taking it, and it'll probably take a really good high seven figure offer to take him away from Borough.
Yeah, you'd imagine at his age, he'll want game time though in the Premier League. I suppose any deal that does come to fruition, he'll want some guarantees in terms of playing time, you'd feel. Chris, let's look at this then from a Wolves perspective, given you are a Wanderers supporter. Is Tavernier someone you'd like to see in Bruno Lage's team next season?
Yeah, I kind of agree with Ben. I think he needs to stay for another year at Middlesbrough because, looking from a Wolves perspective, you think he is a good squad player, but you're looking at where exactly is he going to fit in. And I wouldn't say he gets a place in the 11. I think maybe Premier League clubs are looking at the 5 subs that's coming in next year. They want to stockpile the squads, make it a bit bigger, just so you've got options if you need them. And we've touched on there, he can play centre midfield, he can play at attacking midfield, he can play as a wing back. So you can see why clubs want him, but I think he needs to stay at Borough and have a real breakthrough year where he nails down a specific position, he nails down a role in the team that he wants to take from forward for the rest of his career. I think even not just for Wolves, I think Brighton and maybe Southampton would be the best fit in terms of minutes, but Brighton is another similar story. They've got a lot of good players in that final third in the midfield where you wouldn't put him in the best 11, so you're waiting for injuries, you're waiting for dropping form, and at his age he probably does need to be playing. So I think you can understand why the Premier League clubs are showing interest, because he does have the potential, but I think he does need to just have 1 year where he really kicks on and becomes one of the best players in the Championship, which we probably think he does have in him.
Yeah, we will keep you up to date with Marcus Tavernier's situation over on the website. Do stay tuned to the site for all the latest on his future. Right, let's look at another transfer rumour then. Preston North End are keeping tabs on Watford striker Andre Gray. Gray's contract does expire at Vicarage Road this summer, and Ryan Lowe's side have been heavily linked with a move for the player. Gray has spent this season on loan at Queen's Park Rangers, scoring 10 league goals for the Hoops. Ben, it's only natural to come to you as a Preston fan. I know you've done a lot of editorial pieces on Andre Gray over the last few days on the website. Is he someone you'd like to see it deep down next season?
I think depending on wage demands, I'd be all over this. There's no guarantee that Cameron Archer will be coming back on loan, even though he said he wants to if he doesn't get a chance at Aston Villa before the start of the season. And I think with Ryan Lowe coming out saying he wants Championship experience, I don't think he can get more experience without, kind of being over the hill than Gray. He's played for Brentford, Burnley and Watford and QPR, obviously at Championship level. And considering he didn't start that much last season for QPR, I think 13 of his 28 appearances were starts. He scored 10 goals, I think 8 of them from open play. So, it's a decent ratio of goals. And, you'd hope his wage demands would be kind of more realistic in our frame. I think he's on the best part of 70 grand a week at Watford, and obviously he's not going to get that now in his career being a championship level striker. You just wonder though. I think he does live in London, so it's kind of a big relocation, especially with a young family he's got. And as a PNE fan, you're always wary of other teams gazumping you in the transfer market when it comes to wages, because especially a few years ago, we were never the kind of team to pay over the odds in wages. Maybe that's changed now with some big players signing on, the likes of Alan Brown and Daniel Johnson extending their contracts. I think they've got big wage rises, so maybe things have changed. But I could see like maybe a few London or Southern clubs coming in for Gray as well, with his free agent status upcoming and being pretty made public now. So it would be a good signing, I think, a good foil for Emile Reece. He'll certainly bring more goals than Ched Evans and Sean Maguire have this season, but I'm a bit wary that other teams, particularly down south, will take an interest in and maybe gazump North End to this one.
Yeah, you'd imagine there could be a queue of clubs queuing up for Andre Gray, a player with bags of EFL experience. He knows how to score at this level. Of them 10 league goals, he did score that absolute wonder goal at Pride Park, was a nominee for the EFL Goal of the Year Awards. An absolutely stunning bit of skill and strike to score for QPR. Just finally then on Andre Gray, Ben, I'll stick with you on this one. Is he someone you'd feel could partner someone like Emile Reece, or merely be backup to Emile Reece, or even start over Emile Reece? How do you see Andre Gray fitting into the system?
Well, I think it all depends on the Cameron Archer situation. Law's made it very clear he wants him back, and with his friendship with Steven Gerrard, I think North End will be the first club he goes to if he decides he needs another loan out in the Championship. If he doesn't come back, I think Gray, he's not just a pot. He used to be playing off the last man with the pace he had. He maybe not as quick as he was a couple of years ago, and he's able to hold the ball up a bit more now. And I think Emile Reece is the kind of striker who wants to run at defenders, so he needs kind of someone to hold the ball up next to him. I think Gray's got the strength, even though he's not the biggest of strikers. I think he's got the strength to do that, but he's also got that natural finisher's instinct, as we've seen countless times over the years and this season. So I think he can be a good partner to Reece, and I wouldn't complain if he was the man to come in to partner him as a starting striker.
Yeah, this will be, again, another situation to keep a close eye on. Preston North End currently interested in Andre Gray. His contract does expire at Watford this summer. Right, we've got 2 more EFL transfer rumours coming up for you next. Middlesbrough are keeping tabs on Newcastle United goalkeeper Karl Darlow. The goalkeeping situation at the Riverside has been a real hot topic of debate this season. I think it's become very clear that Chris Wilder does want to recruit a new goalkeeper in this summer transfer window. Joe Lumley's been the main man between the sticks this season and has made a handful of real high-profile mistakes. And Wilder doesn't seem too convinced on Daniels as well, the backup at the Riverside. So Karl Darlow is someone on Middlesbrough's radar. He's only made 8 Premier League appearances for the Toon this season. So you do feel a move away from St James's Park is very much in the offing. Chris, let's come to you then first. As I've already said, the new goalkeeper does seem like an essential bit of business at Middlesbrough this summer if they do have genuine ambitions of promotion next season. Is Karl Darlow someone you feel would be, a good addition for Borough?
Yeah, 100%. I think you've mentioned there that Lumley made too many mistakes, and it was quite ridiculous, really, some of the mistakes that were being made. I feel that if Borough, had bought Darlow in January, I think they'd have made the playoffs quite easily. I think it's such an important position, like we obviously know that, and just the confidence it can give to the rest of the team. And that, like in some games, he was making mistakes when they were on top, and it changes the momentum of everything. And yeah, he was right to drop him, I think, and then Daniels hasn't convinced. You could argue that he'd be good backup, but yeah, he's right to prioritise this position. And yeah, I think Darlow is someone who would be a good Championship goalie. I think you'd have question marks if they were a Premier League side. He probably hasn't fully convinced at that level, but in terms of the Championship, yeah, he's a very, very good signing, and one that Wilder needs to try and get through immediately, because it's the main weakness, I feel, and then he'll look to build a team. Obviously they've got problems maybe going forward. He'll need a few strikers, but the goalkeeper one, he does need a new number one, and this would be the exact sort of player they need to target.
Yeah, Ben, do you echo Chris's thoughts there on Darlow to Borough?
I do, yeah. He's even though he's not been a regular for Newcastle, when he's come into the team on occasion, I think he's played 7 or 8 times in the Premier League this season. He's never let them down, but obviously he'll want regular football at the age of 31, which is not an old age for a keeper in this day and age. And Newcastle moving in a different direction with more high profile signings, so he's not going to get the football he wants. He's got a lot of Championship experience. He was a very good up and coming keeper with Forest. He's decent with his feet, and he ticks a lot of boxes. I think he's the first choice for Borough. They've got Daniel Eveson as well, a keeper I've seen a lot of this season in reserve. They want Leicester to keep keeping update on what the situation is with PNE in regards to his future. I think if I was a Borough, I'd be looking at Eveson instead of Darlow, but Darlow would definitely be a very good upgrade on Lumley and Daniels.
Middlesbrough fans, let us know in the comments. Would you like to see Karl Darlow arrive at the Riverside from Newcastle this summer? Right, we've got one more EFL transfer rumour for you next. We could have put about 5 or 6 different Bristol City transfer rumours in this particular show, but we've just selected one. They do seem to be being linked with many players over the last week. Bristol City are looking at the possibility of re-signing Marlon Pack. He has his contract has expired at Cardiff City. He is going to be released. Pack does live in the Bristol area with his family. Obviously, no stranger to Bristol City. Spent many a year at Ashton Gate. Nigel Pearson keen to add some more experience into that team over the course of the summer. Chris, I'll come to you. We put it to our Bristol City fan pundit, this particular piece. And there seems to be a bit of a divide between Bristol City fans. Some keen to see Marlon Pack return, some not so much, and feel like they need to move on to kind of different things. What's your stance on this one, Chris?
Yeah, to be fair, I'd be pretty mixed as well. It's not the sort of signing that's going to get the fans really excited, but equally so, they've got to recognise that we know the financial position. They're not going to be spending big money this summer. We know from the accounts. So it's going to have to, Pearson is going to have to add to his squad on a limited budget. So he's going to have to look for free transfers. And then in Pack, you're getting a midfielder who knows the club, as we've mentioned, knows the league, and isn't going to take any time to settle in. He'll be like an immediate addition, and he'll help the squad. So yeah, it's not the sort of signing it's really eye catching, but you do need these sort of players to boost your squad to help the younger lads we've touched on there. There's a lot of young players coming through at Bristol City who will need to play with these experienced professionals. So he's going to help in that sense. And yeah, I think a pretty low risk move, not a great deal, but one that could help them for a year or two.
Yeah, I think you took the words out of my mouth. It does strike me as a real low risk move, this one, which could, just benefit the squad in general in terms of the depth in midfield. Ben, how do you see this one? Do you think it's a fairly good deal here from Bristol City if they do get it over the line?
I'm like you said, the Bristol City fans seem to be divided. I'm a little bit divided as well. I think he'd be decent as a backup holding midfield option. I don't think you can expect him to be a regular starter. He didn't play much at all for Cardiff in the second half of the season. I think Steve Morrison decided he had better options in the midfield, and for that reason, I think his career as a Championship footballer is probably coming to the end. And if he does get a move to Bristol City, then it's kind of maybe a last chance saloon kind of thing. It does make sense for him if he goes back there, considering he does live in the area. But I couldn't see him starting week in, week out. I guess it all depends on the situation of Hando and Masengo, because he's got 1 year left on his contract, and you'd imagine if he doesn't choose to renew his deal, City might look to cash in. And if Pack does come in as a Masengo replacement, then I don't think that's a great deal at all. I think they'd have to get a younger holding midfielder in to replace him. But I definitely think Pack brings experience and leadership, something that Bristol City perhaps lacked this season. They were very weak defensively. You know, they conceded 77 goals, which was the third most in the division. So I think he could bring some solidity if he does get game time. I just couldn't see him being a regular starter at the age of 31, considering he's not played that much in recent months for Cardiff.
Yeah, well, Bristol City fans, let us know. Would you like to see Marlon Pack return to Ashton Gate this summer? Right, well, that brings today's EFL Transfer Zone show to an end here at Football League World TV. We've got one more show coming up for you tomorrow. Going to be taking a leg at the Huddersfield-Luton game tomorrow night at Kenilworth Road. Set to be a really exciting encounter. The first leg playing out tomorrow night. Ben, Chris, thanks for joining me this afternoon. If you are watching this on repeat on YouTube, please do stick a like in below this video and subscribe to Football League World TV. It really does help us grow as a channel. There's going to be plenty more transfer news coming up for you over the coming weeks here on Football League World TV and on the website as well. So make sure you do stay tuned. But until then, we shall see you soon.